Hey friends, this is Eric the Mind Control Guy. I want to make this short video real quick before I gotta head off to work. Anyway, there was a big scare here a couple days ago about because of everything going on in the Appalachians with this hurricane, and they got another one barreling down on Florida right now. It's supposed to be a great big one, and then there was talk about another one going to hit the Gulf. So I may be wrong, but there was at least two more big hurricanes getting ready to hit the Gulf. So I got to thinking, they have all they got so many refineries, in Texas and along the Gulf out there. And the other day there was a big run on toilet paper flying out the window, out of the stores. I was talking to the greeters at our local Walmart, and they said it was just unbelievable. Kind of like, what happened during the pandemic. And they said, toilet paper is made here, in the United States. It's also made in Mexico. It's also, Canada. What I'm referring to is Kimberly Clark. They got at least 28 factories. I looked up on Google, and if I counted right, I think there was 28 factories here in the States. And of course, they're made in Mexico and also made up in Canada. And I'm thinking, okay, if they're going to be using natural disasters with their HAARP and geoengineering, the hurricanes and all that, and possibly tornadoes, strategically start watching what areas these hurricanes and tornadoes and other manufactured natural disasters, not natural, but manufactured disasters, where they're occurring at. Are they going to be occurring in major areas where things like toilet paper, paper towels, hygiene products, food manufacturing, all this kind of stuff, all these factories, where they're located? Keep an eye on where these disasters are strategically striking. Keep an eye on that. From the West Coast to the East Coast to the Gulf Coast and everywhere in between. And the other thing I wanted to mention was up there at the hurricane that hit the Appalachians. And the other day I mentioned, the cryptids that could be being flushed out of the forest. And they say there's these big Army Chinook helicopters taking bodies out. What bodies? Human bodies or cryptid bodies? There's something else that's probably going to be, or already has, not probably be, but already has washed out. I don't know if there's a mention about it or not. There's something else that the Appalachians are big on. They house a lot of these. Not people keeping those pets. That ain't what I'm talking about. Snakes, rattlesnakes, poisonous snakes, deadly snakes being flooded out of the Appalachians, being flooded out of the hills, all over the place. All the regular animals being flooded out. Only those on hand, their eyewitnesses, are really going to know the truth about what's going on, because the media is going to be lying through their teeth. They want us to welcome their BS lies with open ass cheeks. Kind of a blunt way of putting it, but the media, when they lie through their teeth, they want you to accept what they have to say. Forget those locals on hand with their videos, and they're showing you this is what's really going on. All the supplies that are being confiscated. People threatened with arrest to go in and rescue people. My terminal manager where I work, he's from Asheville, and him and his wife left a couple days ago to go up there, see if they can rescue family members. We ain't heard from him. I hope the man and his wife are still alive. They're good people. And I threw a lot out here today, and some things I might not have worded right, so you trolls can just shut the hell up and go back to watching Jerry Springer. But certain areas that could be strategically stricken, strategically hit with hurricanes, tornadoes. And who's to say they're not going to try and do something to cause seismic sea waves of ginormous proportions? And if any of you say, well, that's not a word, go to hell. You know the movies 2012, it came out in 2009, and The Day After Tomorrow, it came out in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. And the movie The Day After Tomorrow was the movie version of Art Bell and Whitley Strieber's book, The Coming Global Superstorm. Who's to say the coming global superstorm is not going to be artificially manufactured by HAARP and other geo weapons, because now and for quite some time they can weaponize the weather. Not only would they be wiping out entire populations of people, killing thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people. You know, have a hurricane here, a hurricane here, a hurricane here, a hurricane here, and have them targeted, coming together to create one giant super hurricane. Now the biggest, they call them Category 5s. What happens if they have 4 or 5 manufactured hurricanes all coming together to create one big super hurricane that makes it something like a Category 12? Something that's unstoppable. Wipe out not only the entire Gulf Coast, the East Coast, but they do it on the West Coast, and to keep pushing those things inland, and not just the coastal lines, but way inland. I live in Indiana, and we get the effects of hurricanes up here. Category 2, Category 3. What happens if, like you say, they make several hurricanes out here, out here, out here, but they're targeted to come to one area and create a super hurricane? Nothing is saying that can't happen. The name slips me right now, but there was a movie years ago, and I believe it took place up in the Northeast. I can't remember if it was called Superstorm or what it was called. But actor, I think George Clooney, I believe was named, he was in it. And it was inspired by a storm that actually happened. 3 storms came together and made one giant superstorm. Nothing is to say that they cannot create and manufacture several hurricanes out there to make it one big super hurricane, and do that on all the coastlines, the East Coast, the Gulf, the West Coast, all these happening at once. And the other thing, the reason I mentioned not the coming global superstorm, but The Day After Tomorrow in 2012, there was huge waves that came in. What's to say that they can't use whatever technology they have to create a ginormous wave, ginormous seismic sea wave, create it out there, a few miles out there, get it some steam to build up, and have a 400 or 500 foot wave come in from the coastlines and just bulldoze down everything in its path. Laugh if you want to. These things happen. These things can happen. These things have happened. Some maybe haven't happened yet, But it's a scary thought when our own government and our military is taking orders to jet up HAARP and other kinds of weather manufacturing devices, weaponizing the weather against us. I think what we're seeing is just the beginning of the end. They keep doing this the way they're doing it. Wipe out the factories that we all depend on. And not just here. They could do Mexico. They could create a damn ginormous hurricane, like I said, manufacture a few together, and they could wipe out Mexico and they could wipe out Central America without even trying, using these kinds of devices. Create 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 hurricanes at once and have them come in all at the same time and create a super hurricane. And this, watch for tornadoes just showing up out of the middle of nowhere, giant ones. Of course, they say, you know, an F5 is the biggest one. Now, back in 1999, I believe it was, in Oklahoma City, they had the closest thing to an F6 there's ever been, or you might as well call it an F6. I still have a picture, it was on the front page of the Indianapolis Star, a picture taken from 3 miles away. An F5, the base of it, you know, they have the funnel, but the base of it on an F5 is a mile wide. This monster was 1.5 miles wide. What if they do the same thing with tornadoes? Create a big one here, a big one here, a big one here, a big one here, a big one here. And for those who do such things, do the math. And have several F5s coming together and maybe create an F12 or an F15. They want to eliminate the population of the country because wars get messy, wars get expensive, wars get dirty, and people get fed up with wars. Fed up with wars. Use your weather engineering devices, weaponizing the weather. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to wipe out the population and all the things that people have come to rely on from the factories of various kinds, the refineries for gasoline and oil and all that, manufacture supplements, medical supplies, food, water. Before these sons of bitches are done, America is going to be a wasteland. And if that doesn't do it, watch and see if they don't try and trigger Yellowstone, the Pacific North Rim, undersea earthquakes, creating ginormous sea waves, bulldozing over the mainland, hurricanes, tornadoes, ginormous lightning strikes of unbelievable proportions like we've never seen. Watch for that. And also watch to see if the volcanoes on the west coast don't start blowing. And Yellowstone goes, it's all over. Anyway, I wanted to put this out there because this has been just stewing and stewing and stewing in my head. And when people say, oh, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I've said many times, I am a conspiracy theorist. Why? Because I've lived it. My family lived it. We see what the powers that be can do. And now, because now they really want to ramp this up and want to wipe off so much of the population of this planet, I'm afraid, my friends, we're seeing the beginning of the end. I want to survive it, and I hope you do too. Thank you for listening.